Stop everything you're doing and pay attention right now. This is not just any video. It is the divine revelation you have been waiting for. God has something to tell you, something that can change the course of your life forever. That's right, something big is about to happen, but you need to open this video urgently. We are talking about a transformation that will touch all areas of your life. Are you ready for what God has in store for you? If you think your life can't change, prepare to be surprised. But beware, this is your last chance. Imagine for a moment that all that suffering, those doubts, those sleepless nights, all of that could end today. God has something great prepared for you, but only those who watch until the end will understand the true power of this message. It is no coincidence that you are here. It is God who has brought you to this moment. But you have to make a decision now before it's too late. Can you imagine missing this unique opportunity? You don't want to let it slip away. This is the kind of revelation that few have the opportunity to receive. If you've made it this far, it's because you've been chosen for something greater, something that can transform your life in the blink of an eye. But only those who have faith, who truly believe, will experience this change. Don't let anything distract you now, because what's coming is simply incredible. God is extending His hand to you, but it's up to you whether you take it or let it pass by. Don't think twice. If you really want to see a change in your life, you need to watch this video until the end. God has something urgent to tell you, something that's going to turn your world upside down in the best possible way. You are one step away from discovering how your life can be different, how things can finally get better. But make no mistake, this opportunity is one of a kind and will not come again. So what are you waiting for? Open the video and discover what God has prepared for you. Remember, this is your last chance. What are you going to do with it? If you keep doing the same things, you'll get the same results. But if you open this video and let God speak to you, get ready for a 180-degree turn in your life. Time is ticking, and every second counts. Don't let this opportunity slip away, because trust me, you don't want to miss what God has in store for you. In the midst of the darkest days, when it seems like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, there is a comfort that is always available: God's unwavering presence. No matter how great the challenge, His love and protection are there, ready to wrap us in a mantle of hope. It's in those critical moments, when everything seems lost, that faith in His power becomes the safest refuge. Life's storms can be intense, but with God, there's always a harbor of peace to turn to. He is that friend who never fails, who never abandons. Life is full of trials, some so tough that it seems like we won't be able to overcome them. However, God, in His infinite mercy, offers us a relief that goes beyond the earthly. It's a comfort that soothes the soul and strengthens the spirit, reminding us that we are never alone. In moments of despair, it is vital to remember that His presence is not just a myth or an abstract idea. It is real, tangible, and it's here, waiting for us to seek it. We only need to stop, breathe, and feel His divine embrace. That comfort renews us, gives us the strength to keep going. When the pain seems unbearable, and the future uncertain, God's promise gives us a reprieve. He doesn't promise a life without difficulties, but He does assure us that He will be by our side every step of the way. In every tear, in every sigh, He is there, offering a peace that the world cannot give. It's a reminder that, although we can't control everything, we can trust in His plan. His comfort frees us from fear, fills us with courage, and allows us to face any adversity with our heads held high. That's the promise that sustains us. Divine comfort is not just an illusion, it's a reality that manifests itself in ways we often overlook. It's in a whispered prayer in the night, in a kind word from a loved one, in a moment of stillness amidst the chaos. God works in mysterious ways, and His comfort arrives just when we need it most. Sometimes, we find ourselves in the midst of the storm and forget that we are not alone. But when we remember to seek His presence, we find that He has always been there, guiding us, protecting us, providing the peace we so desperately crave. It's in those moments of anguish that we most need to open ourselves to His comfort. God never moves away. It's us who sometimes move away from Him. As we draw closer to His love, we feel an immediate relief, as if a heavy burden were lifted from our shoulders. There's no need to face life's challenges alone. With God by our side, every problem becomes an opportunity to grow, to strengthen ourselves, and to see His hand at work in our lives. That's the power of divine comfort, a gift that is available to all. Many have found an unshakable refuge in God. Great leaders, saints, and ordinary people have experienced His comfort in moments of crisis. No matter how great the pain or uncertainty, there is a constant. God is there, ready to offer His protection. It's a comfort that doesn't discriminate, that isn't limited to a few. It is available to all who seek it with sincerity and faith. That's the beauty of His love, a love that never fails, that always comes through when we need it most. In that love, we find the peace we seek. In moments of confusion and pain, when the world seems upside down, the certainty that God is with us is a firm anchor. It's easy to get lost in the chaos of life, but His comfort reminds us that there is always a purpose, a path illuminated by His light. Every trial, every challenge, becomes an opportunity to draw closer to Him, to trust in His plan, even when we don't fully understand it. God invites us to rest in His comfort, to set aside our worries, and to trust that He is in control. That is the peace that only He can offer. Sometimes, God's comfort comes through other people, through an unexpected conversation, a kind gesture. It reminds us that we are part of something greater, of a community of faith that supports each other. God uses us to bring comfort to others, and in that act, we also find relief for our own burdens. By providing comfort, we receive comfort. It's a divine cycle, a constant exchange of love and support that strengthens everyone involved. That's how God works, touching lives through ours, extending His comfort through our hands. The comfort God offers is not just for moments of crisis. It's a comfort that's available every moment of the day, in every situation. It's easy to forget it when things are going well, but even in times of prosperity, His comfort is vital. It reminds us that our true security is not in the material, but in His eternal love. It helps us stay humble, grateful, and aware that everything we have is a gift of His grace. That comfort sustains us at all times, reminding us that, no matter what happens, we are in His hands. God's comfort also prepares us for the future, to face the challenges that have yet to come. It's a constant reminder that, no matter what happens, we are not alone. By resting in His comfort today, we strengthen our faith for tomorrow. We become more resilient, more capable of handling life's storms without succumbing to fear or despair. That's the power of trusting in God, of knowing that His protection is an unbreakable shield. It allows us to live boldly, with the certainty that no matter what comes, we are in the hands of a loving and faithful God. God's comfort not only relieves our burdens, but also transforms us. As we receive His peace, our hearts soften, our perspective changes. What once seemed impossible becomes a manageable challenge. What once caused fear is now faced with courage. This transformation is the direct result of being in His presence, of opening ourselves to His love and allowing His comfort to work in our lives. It's an ongoing process, a daily renewal that draws us closer to Him and prepares us to live a fuller and more blessed life. The strength that comes from faith is an invaluable gift, especially when life confronts us with its toughest tests. In those moments of uncertainty and pain, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, but that's where faith becomes our greatest ally. Keeping faith in God, even when everything seems to be against us, is what allows us to keep moving forward. That strength is not something we can generate ourselves. It's a divine gift we receive when we fully trust in His plan. When we believe in His power, we find the strength to overcome any obstacle. In times of difficulty, faith acts as an anchor that keeps us grounded. It's easy to be swept away by fear or despair, but faith reminds us that we are not alone. God has a purpose for each of us, and although we don't always understand His plan, we can be sure that He knows what is best. This unshakable trust in His plan gives us the strength to face life's challenges. Faith, then, becomes our source of power, an energy that drives us to keep going, no matter the circumstances. Faith also gives us the right perspective to face difficult times. When we trust in God, we can see beyond the immediate difficulties and understand that each trial has a purpose. This change in perspective allows us to see challenges not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities to grow and strengthen our relationship with God. So what once seemed unbearable becomes an opportunity to demonstrate our faith and trust in His divine plan. The strength we gain from this faith is what allows us to move forward with confidence and hope. Keeping faith is not always easy, especially when we face situations that seem unsolvable. However, it is precisely in those moments that faith is tested and strengthened. Life will not always be simple, and there will be times when everything seems to be against us, but that's when we must remember that God is with us. By trusting in His plan, we find the strength to keep moving forward, even when we don't see the path clearly. That's the true test of faith, trusting in God, even when we don't understand what He's doing. In times of greatest uncertainty, faith in God provides the stability we need. It's like a beacon that guides us through the storm, lighting our way when everything seems dark. Trusting in His plan doesn't mean everything will be easy, but it does mean we are not alone. This trust gives us the strength to face any adversity with courage and determination. Faith then becomes our shield, protecting us from discouragement and despair. With it, we can face any situation, knowing that God is in control. Some may think that strength comes from physical or mental endurance, but true strength comes from faith. It is that unbreakable faith in God that allows us to endure the toughest tests. It's what gives us the energy to get up when we fall, to keep fighting when everything seems lost. This spiritual strength is what allows us to persevere, even when we don't have the answers. By trusting in God, we find a power that transcends the human, a divine force that drives us to keep going, no matter the circumstances. Trusting in God's plan is not always easy, especially when we face difficulties that seem insurmountable. However, it is precisely in those moments that we must cling more to our faith. God does not promise us a life without problems, but He does promise that He will be with us every step of the way. This certainty gives us the strength to face any challenge, knowing that His plan is perfect, even if we don't understand it. By keeping our faith in Him, we find the energy to keep going, confident that everything is in His hands. The spiritual strength we gain by trusting in God prepares us to face any challenge. We know that, no matter what comes, God is with us, guiding and protecting us. This unshakable trust in His plan allows us to face life with an attitude of hope and optimism. No matter how difficult the circumstances, we know that God has a purpose for us and that His plan is always for our good. By keeping our faith in Him, we find the strength to keep going, no matter the difficulties. In times of crisis, it's easy to lose hope, but it is precisely in those moments that faith becomes our strength. Trusting in God gives us the ability to face any challenge with courage and determination. We know that, even if we don't understand His plan, He has a purpose for everything that happens to us. This certainty gives us the strength to keep moving forward, trusting that God is with us every step of the way. Faith then becomes our source of power, a divine energy that drives us to keep going, no matter the circumstances. The strength that comes from faith is not something that can be measured in human terms. It is a divine power that allows us to endure the unbearable, that gives us hope in the midst of despair. It is faith in God that enables us to face life's challenges with courage and determination. Life tests us in ways we never imagined. In those moments, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and lose faith. But it is precisely in those tough times that our faith is strengthened. By trusting in God, we find the strength to keep going, knowing that He has a purpose for everything that happens to us. This trust gives us the energy to face any challenge with courage and determination. Faith then becomes our shield, protecting us from discouragement and despair. With it, we can face any situation, knowing that God is in control. True strength doesn't come from our physical or mental ability, but from our faith in God. It is that unbreakable faith that allows us to endure the toughest trials and keep going, no matter the circumstances. Trusting in God's plan gives us the stability we need to face any adversity. By keeping our faith in Him, we find the energy to get up when we fall, to keep fighting when everything seems lost. That is true strength, a strength that can only be found by trusting in God. In times of greatest uncertainty, faith in God is what keeps us firm. We know that, even if we don't understand His plan, He has a purpose for everything that happens to us. This certainty gives us the strength to face any challenge, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. Faith then becomes our source of power, a divine energy that drives us to keep going, no matter the circumstances. With it, we can face any situation, knowing that God is in control. Trusting in God is not always easy, especially when we face difficulties that seem insurmountable. However, it is precisely in those moments that we must cling more to our faith. God does not promise us a life without problems, but He does promise that He will be with us every step of the way. This certainty gives us the strength to face any challenge, knowing that His plan is perfect, even if we don't understand it. By keeping our faith in Him, we find the energy to keep going, confident that everything is in His hands. When everything seems lost, faith in God gives us the strength to keep going. We know that, even if we don't understand His plan, He has a purpose for everything that happens to us. This certainty gives us the energy to face any challenge with courage and determination. Faith then becomes our shield, protecting us from discouragement and despair. With it, we can face any situation, knowing that God is in control. And that is the strength we need to overcome any adversity. The strength that comes from faith in God allows us to face life with an attitude of hope and optimism. We know that, no matter what comes, God is with us, guiding and protecting us. This unshakable trust in His plan gives us the strength to keep going, no matter the difficulties. By keeping our faith in Him, we find the energy to get up when we fall, to keep fighting when everything seems lost. That is true strength, a strength that can only be found by trusting in God. Spiritual renewal is a continuous process, a constant invitation to leave behind what weighs us down and open ourselves to the new blessings God has for us. In life, it's easy to accumulate burdens, past mistakes that become chains that prevent us from moving forward. But God, in His infinite mercy, offers us the opportunity to let go of all that, to start anew with a renewed heart. It's a call to free ourselves from the weight of yesterday and embrace the present with renewed faith, ready to receive the blessings He has prepared. Renewing faith is not just an act of will, but a recognition of our constant need for God. It's understanding that, no matter how strong we feel, we always need His guidance and love. This renewal is a daily process, a continuous commitment to draw closer to Him, to let His light shine in our lives. No matter how many times we have failed in the past, God is always willing to give us a new opportunity. By renewing our faith, we open ourselves to the transformation that only He can bring. Spiritual renewal also involves a change of perspective. It's about letting go of looking back with regret and starting to see the future with hope. God calls us to leave behind the mistakes, doubts, and fears that have held us back. It's a call to trust that, with His help, we can overcome anything the past has thrown our way. By opening ourselves to this renewal, we allow His love to transform us from within, changing our way of thinking, feeling, and living. It's a liberating process, a renewal that fills us with hope and purpose. Renewing faith also means learning to forgive ourselves. Often, we are our harshest critics, clinging to past mistakes and letting them define us. But God doesn't see us that way. He sees our potential, what we can become if we simply surrender to His will. As we renew ourselves spiritually, we learn to see ourselves as He sees us, with love, compassion, and a bright future ahead. This act of renewal frees us from destructive self-criticism and allows us to walk with our heads held high, knowing that we are loved and accepted by God. Spiritual renewal is not just an internal change but also affects how we relate to the world around us. By renewing our faith, we become more compassionate, more patient, more willing to forgive. We realize that just as God has given us a new opportunity, we must offer the same grace to others. This renewal transforms our relationships, allowing us to love more deeply and sincerely. By opening ourselves to the blessings God has for us, we also become channels of His love and peace to others. On this path of renewal, it is essential to let go of grudges and past hurts. Often, we carry old pains that only hold us back, that prevent us from moving forward toward the blessings God has for us. But true renewal requires letting go of those burdens, handing them over to God, and trusting that He will heal our wounds. By doing so, we free ourselves to receive all that He has in store. It's an act of faith, trusting that God will do something new in our lives, something better than we could ever imagine. That is the promise of renewal. Renewing faith is a continuous process, not a one-time event. It's a daily practice of returning to God, reminding ourselves of His love and mercy. It's easy to get caught up in routine, to forget what really matters. But spiritual renewal calls us to stop, to reflect, and to realign our lives with God's purpose. It's a constant reminder that we are not alone, that God is always present, ready to guide and bless us. By keeping this renewal alive, our lives are filled with a purpose and peace that only He can offer. Spiritual renewal is also a call to action. It's not enough to recognize the need for change. We must take concrete steps to live according to our renewed faith. This might mean spending more time in prayer, seeking the company of other believers, or simply being more aware of how our actions reflect our faith. By acting on this renewal, we allow God to work through us, transforming not only our lives but also the lives of those around us. It's a renewal that has a lasting impact, a change that goes beyond the surface. On this path of renewal, it's vital to remember that we are not alone. God has given us the community of faith to support us, to walk with us on this journey. By surrounding ourselves with people who share our faith, we find the encouragement and strength we need to keep going. This renewal is not a solitary path, but a shared adventure with others who also seek to draw closer to God. Together we can support each other, reminding ourselves of God's promises and helping each other stay firm in our renewed faith. Renewing faith also involves total surrender to God's will. It's about letting go of our desire for control, our need to understand everything, and trusting that God knows what's best for us. Sometimes, this surrender can be difficult, especially when we don't see the big picture. But it's precisely in those moments that we most need to renew our faith. By doing so, we find a peace that goes beyond understanding, a certainty that no matter what happens, we are in the hands of a loving and faithful God. That is true renewal, a renewal that brings with it deep peace and trust. Spiritual renewal is not something that happens overnight. It's a gradual process, a journey that requires patience and perseverance. Along this path, there will be moments of doubt, of struggle, but there will also be moments of deep joy and peace. It's important to remember that every step we take in this process brings us closer to God, opens us more to His blessings. By staying firm in our pursuit of renewal, we discover that God is always there, ready to guide us, to strengthen us, and to fill our lives with His love. This process of renewal also challenges us to leave behind old habits, to let go of behaviors that have distanced us from God. Often, we cling to things that seem necessary but actually prevent us from experiencing the fullness of life in God. True renewal involves a willingness to change, to let go of what ties us to the past, and to embrace the new that God has for us. It's an act of faith, trusting that God has something better for us, something we can only receive if we are willing to let go of the old. Renewing faith is also a reminder of the importance of gratitude. As we leave the past behind and open ourselves to the new blessings from God, it is essential to recognize and be thankful for what He has already done in our lives. Gratitude keeps us focused on the positive, on what God has provided, rather than on what is still missing. This spirit of gratitude fuels our faith, gives us a clearer perspective, and allows us to see God's blessings in every aspect of our lives. It's a virtuous circle, where renewal fuels gratitude, and gratitude, in turn, strengthens our renewal. On this path of renewal, it's natural to face challenges. There will be moments when the past tries to drag us back, when old wounds resurface. But it's in those moments that we must remember that God has already begun a new work in us. By staying firm in our renewed faith, we find the strength to overcome any obstacle, to leave the old behind and move forward with confidence. This renewal gives us the power to face anything that comes, knowing that God is by our side, guiding us and blessing us every step of the way. Renewing faith also means opening ourselves to the possibility of the unexpected. God has ways of surprising us, of blessing us in ways we never imagined. But to receive these blessings, we must be willing to let go of our expectations and trust in His plan. This renewal is an act of faith, a commitment to live open to what God has for us, without clinging to our own ideas or desires. By doing so, we discover that His blessings are far greater than we could have imagined, and that His plan for our lives is perfect in every way. Personal transformation is a profound process that begins from within, guided by faith and nurtured by daily prayer. It's an invitation to renew oneself, to leave behind old ways of thinking and living, and to embrace the new life that God has prepared for each of us. This transformation is not just a superficial change but a renewal of heart and mind that leads us to a fuller and more blessed life. Through faith, we allow God to work in us, molding us and guiding us toward our divine purpose. Daily prayer is the catalyst for this transformation. It's in those moments of communion with God that we find the strength to change, to let go of what hinders our growth, and to embrace what God has for us. Personal transformation requires constant commitment, total surrender to God's will. As we pray, our hearts align more with His purpose, and our lives begin to reflect His love and grace. It's a gradual process, but with each prayer, we draw closer to the life God wants for us. Faith is the foundation upon which this transformation is built. Without faith, it is impossible to experience the true and lasting change that God desires for us. Faith gives us the confidence to surrender to His will, to allow Him to guide and transform us. Through faith, we learn to see ourselves as God sees us, as beings full of potential and purpose. This new perspective drives us to live in a way that honors God and reflects His love in all we do. Personal transformation is ultimately an act of faith. The transformation process is not always easy. It requires letting go of old habits, facing the parts of ourselves we would rather ignore, and trusting that God will guide us through every challenge. But it is precisely in those difficult moments where true transformation occurs. As we surrender to God and trust in His plan, we begin to see significant changes in our lives. We become more patient, more loving, more understanding. That is the beauty of personal transformation. It makes us the best version of ourselves. Personal transformation also involves a change in our priorities. As our faith grows and our relationship with God strengthens, we begin to value what truly matters. Worldly concerns lose their power over us, and instead, we seek things of eternal value. This new perspective allows us to live more fully, with a sense of purpose and direction that can only come from God. Personal transformation frees us from the constant search for satisfaction in the material and directs us toward a life of meaning and blessing. Through faith and prayer, we learn to trust in the transformation process, knowing that God is in control. Every step we take, every change we experience, is part of His perfect plan for our lives. Although the process may sometimes be painful or confusing, we can be sure that God is working for our good. This trust gives us the strength to keep moving forward, to persevere in our pursuit of a fuller and more blessed life. By embracing personal transformation, we open ourselves to all that God has for us. Personal transformation is not just for our benefit, but also for the benefit of others. As God works in us, we become more capable of serving, loving, and positively impacting those around us. Our transformed life becomes a testimony to the power of God, a living proof of His love and grace. By allowing God to transform us, we become instruments of His peace and love in the world. This transformation, then, not only changes our lives, but also the lives of those who touch ours. Hope in the future is a fundamental pillar of Christian faith. Although the path may be full of challenges and difficulties, the certainty that God walks with us gives us the strength to keep going. No matter how dark the night may seem, the promise of a new dawn is always present. This hope is not an illusion. It's a firm trust that God has a plan for each of us, a plan that will unfold in His due time. With faith, we can face any obstacle, knowing that with His help, we will reach new spiritual heights. It's easy to lose hope when problems seem insurmountable, but it's precisely in those moments that faith becomes our anchor. Life presents us with challenges that sometimes seem bigger than we can handle. However, with God's guidance, we can overcome any adversity. He never abandons us in the midst of the storm. On the contrary, it is in those moments when His presence becomes stronger. Hope in the future allows us to look beyond the present difficulties and see the horizon full of new opportunities and blessings. Hope is not simply waiting for things to get better. It is actively believing in God's transforming power. It's having the certainty that, although the path may be difficult, God is preparing us for something greater. Every trial, every obstacle, is an opportunity to grow and strengthen our faith. By keeping our hope in the future, we remain firm in the promise that God is working in our lives, guiding us toward a destiny full of purpose and meaning. It is this hope that drives us to keep moving forward, trusting that the best is yet to come. Faith in the future is nourished by the certainty that God has a purpose for everything we experience. Even when we don't understand why we face certain challenges, we can trust that He has a plan. Hope in the future allows us to see beyond the current difficulties and focus on God's promises. It is a hope that gives us the right perspective, that helps us keep our eyes on the prize that is to come. With this hope, we can face any challenge with courage, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. It's a constant reminder that, although the path may be difficult, the rewards will be great. With faith in God, we can be sure that the future is bright, full of opportunities and blessings yet to be discovered. This hope for the future also gives us the ability to see the potential in every situation, even in the most difficult ones. We know that God can turn any circumstance for good, and this certainty gives us peace. With this hope, we can face challenges with a positive attitude, trusting that God is working in our favor. No matter what the future brings, with God by our side, we know that everything will be okay. This is the hope that drives us, that sustains us, and that gives us the strength to keep going, trusting that the best is yet to come. Hope for the future also challenges us to be proactive, to make decisions that reflect our faith in God. It's not just about waiting for things to get better, but about acting with the certainty that God is guiding our steps. This hope gives us the courage to take risks, to step out of our comfort zone, and to pursue the dreams that God has placed in our hearts. With faith in the future, we can move forward with confidence, knowing that, although the path may be uncertain, God is with us every step of the way. It is a hope that gives us the strength to keep moving forward, no matter the challenges we face. Hope for the future reminds us that with God, there is always a reason to keep going. No matter how difficult the current circumstances, there is always hope. This hope gives us the strength to get up every day, to face challenges with courage, and to keep moving forward with confidence. Now that you have received this powerful message, it's time to act. It's not enough just to listen. God is calling you to make decisions that will transform your life. Think about what you have just learned and how you can apply it to your daily life. What steps will you take today to draw closer to God and allow His power to work in your life? It's time to leave behind fear, doubt, and inaction. Change begins with a decision, and that decision is in your hands. I ask you, are you going to keep living as you have been, or are you ready to embrace the full and blessed life that God has for you? Don't let this moment fade away. Reflect on what this message means to you and how you can use it to reach new spiritual heights. Transformation is within reach, but it depends on you taking the first step. Don't sit around waiting for a miracle without acting. The miracle can start with you. If this message has touched your heart, then I invite you to take action. First, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any other message that could continue transforming your life. Also, share this video with someone who also needs to hear these words. Remember that God works in mysterious ways, and perhaps through you, someone else can receive the blessing they need. Don't stop here. This is just the beginning of a journey of faith and spiritual growth. Keep seeking God in everything you do, keep praying, keep believing. And every day, ask yourself, how can I live today according to God's will? What can I do to make His light shine brighter in my life? Every small step you take will bring you closer to the blessings He has prepared for you. Finally, remember that faith without works is dead faith. Let this message be the fuel that ignites your spiritual life. Be brave, be proactive, and trust that God is with you every step of the way. Sign up for the channel, share this message, and keep seeking the personal transformation that only God can offer you. And remember, the gates of heaven open for those who have the courage to knock. Are you ready to see what God has in store for you?